Speaking of which,
Yes.
Daredevil,
Episode
episode 3.
Now,
I think
go on.
this proves that this show is good. This episode is so well written and so well put together. This just, like, I don't think you could have a show that can produce an episode this well written and also be a bad show. I think they're, like,
Yeah.
impossible to, like, in a Venn diagram, them two circles can't overlap.
No, I think, well, there is the only way a show this well written, like, it would visually have to be shot shockingly. And, like, and then I think even people would just go, this is, like, shot like a fucking indie film, but it has the writing level of a blockbuster. Like, people would kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's so well put together. And then we were loving it after the first 2 episodes, but I think, like, all deny, like, you can't deny that this is a great return to Daredevil.
What I'd say based on what I've seen on the internet is either one of two things has happened. Either people have done what we've always suggested, and they watched the first 2 episodes, they didn't like it, so they've not bothered watching the 3rd episode, and they've gone, it's not for me, that's fine, which is a completely okay thing to do. Or they've seen this episode and gone, I judged you too harshly, continue. Because the amount of negativity I'm seeing this week compared to last week is insignificant.
I think the problem, the unfortunate problem was they chose that the way they chose to launch the show, that moment of kickstarting it with that fight, which, yes, some of the VFX didn't have full polish. Like, there was a little bit of, I can admit, it wasn't like perfect VFX. I think, unfortunately, that being the first instant that people saw, they went straight to social media and were like, this looks shit. And, like, we're mad. But then even, I reckon by the end of the 2nd episode, though, they were probably all quietly sat there like, well, I've nothing else to really hate on now. Like, unfortunately, it kickstarted with a thing that was very polarizing. And like you said, people either stopped watching or they've kept watching and gone, yeah, okay, maybe we reacted a little too quick there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't kickstarted with more copium this week. After
okay.
People discovered
I didn't know where we were going to discuss this. So, I have been on an emotional rollercoaster with this. I don't think I've given you the latest update on this.
Okay.
So last week I was big huffing copium that Foggy's not dead.
And I was saying he's dead.
And Hori was being a hater. And then about, was it the next morning or was it later?
It was literally like the next day.
There was some brilliant sleuths on the internet, shout out them, realised that the building number of Nelson, Murdoch and Page was 468. And Daredevil legacy number 468 is an issue around which Foggy Nelson fakes his own death and goes into witness protection. And a lot of people speculating there are no such thing as coincidences. And on the phone call, there was like a lot of like conspiracy talk going on that may lend itself to the idea that something crazy is going on and Foggy needs to go into witness protection. And that made a lot of sense. I do think it makes a lot of sense. It's very possible. I think, like, in the grand scheme of it, especially the way Marvel does stuff, incredibly believable that that is an Easter egg. As well as the news that Eldon is back for season 2. The only minor scupper in this plan is that someone's been to the street where they filmed it, and that building is actually 468.
So it's not a necessary. Well,
it could be the best double down of their life of going, we're going to find a building that works for us that is 468, or it is genuinely the most insane coincidence that's ever been on such a large scale.
I am still team Foggy is dead.
Yeah, Hori's a hater. He doesn't like Foggy. I don't know why. Foggy's been nothing but kind to Hori.
Mainly because like my still like conviction of I don't think they bring him back, or and I also don't think they should, is because the way that scene played out was so intense for like us as the viewer returning and like being and like they really sold him dying that I feel like if they suddenly go, psych, he's in witness protection now, even though you just watched him bleed out, like.
Okay, counterpoint. If Foggy knows he has to go into witness protection and knows that Matt can't know, he's gonna find a way of saying to them, this needs to be so believable that God himself thinks I'm dead, because he knows that Matt will know if he's dead or not.
True. But this also plays into like the reasoning that kind of leans on more my side that people have explained of like, because people are like, it's bullseye. Like he missed. He never misses. Like he would just headshot him. The counterpoint people are now saying is no, he shot him there on purpose because he knew he would die slowly that way. He knew Matt would turn up and then would have to fight him while slowly listening to his friend die. And that makes it more brutal.
I can believe that very much that he would shoot him somewhere where he knows that without an ambulance there instantly he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a sadistic fuck. He enjoys people being in pain. That doesn't sell it to me too much. I can believe that maybe there is some shenanigans going on that it might be not all that is seen. Because I also think for season 2, when Matt's clearly in a semi-healthy place, having accepted his friend's death, that would throw such a spanner in the works for Matt if he finds out he's been lied to this entire time. Especially if the reason Karen moved to San Francisco is because she knew the truth and she couldn't lie to Matt every day. I said it felt out of character for Karen to run away. What if it was a case of she knew, and she knew because she knows Matt can tell when she's lying, that she couldn't stay near Matt?
No, because I feel like Matt. No, I believe the whole storyline of like Matt just went ghost mode and like Hell's like you've also got to look at it as like Karen. Think of how much she's gone through in Hell's Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Like there comes a point when you're like, I just don't want to live here anymore. Like I like there's too much trauma attached to this place. Like I'm sorry, but and the one person that was my only person still here is completely ghosted me. I'm gone. See you later.
I think this is going to be a point me and Horry are on the opposite side of until we get an actual conclusion.
I think that.
My only other thing I would say, and this is kind of not really related, but it makes more sense to say it now before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Are you aware of how big Hell's Kitchen actually is?
Well, yeah, it's like essentially a borough of New York, right?
No, it's not a borough. It's like 1 square mile.
Oh, it's even smaller.
Yeah, it's fucking tiny.
The way they always talk about it, like in the episode when Matt was on the date, and he's like, they're talking about, oh, where are you from? It's like makes it sound like, okay, well, still, I mean,
and like I saw a couple of Americans tweeting, it was like, people not from New York, are you aware of how big Hell's Kitchen actually is? Because it's kind of weird that this dude with powers who can help a lot of people just cares about one tiny bit. They're like, I find it very difficult to believe that even though he's blind, everyone in Hell's Kitchen doesn't know he's Daredevil.
yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, he definitely does stuff outside of Hell's Kitchen. That's just where
quite funny.
They mainly tell stories.
But this episode,
yes, this episode,
very much a lawyer episode.
Yes,
in the best possible way. Like I'm saying, lawyer episode is like a compliment.
Oh yeah, no, like I really enjoyed. I said it last week that I was enjoying more of the law side stuff because we're getting a Matt that isn't being Daredevil at the moment. And something I forgot to like talk on last week, I really enjoyed. Like, can we just point out that Matt just casually at one point just goes, "Oh, he wasn't in possession of his magical amulets." Like that is such a kind of an odd thing for the MCU to like fully like if you think old Netflix Daredevil would never have like been that mystical and accepting of it, and it's cool that we're getting a court story like lawyer story in
How
court.
does law work in this world where you got big green men and mystical amulets?
Yeah, and like, and then obviously in this episode he ends up revealing that he is White Tiger, which bit of a dick move, but I get why he did it. But like,
it was his only play.
He was backed into a corner, but like that whole idea of then how would that then play into a court case?
Yeah,
and like
and ironically, the judge says something that's always bugged me, especially like American legal dramas. And they're like, the jury will ignore that comment. It's like, if I was a juror and someone said something and then the judge was like, you must ignore that, I would not be able to ignore that.
Well, yeah, the judge goes, I could dismiss this, but it's already been said. Like, he's fully aware that he can...
Something like a white tiger mask has already done the damage.
It's like, I can tell them not to take that into account, but people subconsciously will take that into account. Like, he's well aware. So there's like... And then I did enjoy the point of, you realize that there's now, it's open season for the prosecution to use this just as much, and it's like, yeah. And I know I couldn't
win without it.
Yeah, I will say that obviously we know this guy was innocent, and it's like, was shitty seeing the fucking witness fold. And as the viewer, we're like, oh, but we know he's innocent and this is bullshit. The prosecution guy, who's the general attorney, right?
DA,
that was it. District attorney. He made a fair point of the whole, like, just because he's a hero and he's done all these good things and he acts as a hero doesn't prevent him from doing something evil by killing a cop, which is very true.
It's the beauty of kind of the court system, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to go, these are the actual facts, and then I'm going to give my opinion of these facts. He's going to give his opinion of these facts, and you guys need to decide who you think makes more sense.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely valid to go, yeah, he's done a bunch of good things, but he does wear a mask. That's kind of odd, no? But when you've got Matt going, here is a police officer saying that White Tiger is the fucking saving grace. Here are people who've been saved by him. Do you think that same person just randomly decided to kill a cop? What do we think is more likely here? And I think if I'm on that jury, I'd probably end up somewhere along the lines of, there was someone getting beaten up by the police, but he did throw the police officer in front of the train. That's probably where I would have ended up landing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be on the... If I was in the jury, I'd be like, okay, this is someone who's acted as a hero. We have seen on the news what White Tiger's done. You're like, okay, he's generally done very good things and protected the community. He said he was just protecting someone on that platform, and the cops said there was no one there, and then this witness turned up, but didn't seem to tell the truth exactly. Like, you, even as a jury, you'd be like, we've just seen that the guy that brought this witness on is now pissed because the witness has changed their story. So you're like, okay, all of that shit, we ain't getting the full truth there. So it's like, what does your gut say? But yeah, this whole seeing how a court case would play out with a superhero essentially as the person on trial is an interesting side that we don't really often get to see.
Yeah, very, very cool. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed like the political side once he got him acquitted as well. Of Fisk going on record as like, this is a miscarriage of justice and nothing's happened right and blah, 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 blah. Very, very cool.
That's something I'm also, like, we've said for a while, like, we want more street level Marvel MCU stuff. And like, we would both agree that a Spider-Man TV show would be an amazing way to do that. We don't necessarily going to get that. Oh, well. I will say with this show, something that I'm really loving they're using compared to whatever Netflix has done, the whole BB report thing. It's a really fun, creative tool to tell the stories of the general people on the street level and like show what would a general person's opinion be of like a case going on, of the crime level currently. Like, it's such a good way to pull us as the viewer into that street level of being like from their perspective, looking at the heroes rather than us being a comic book fan being like, oh, the heroes are the best thing, and like
Yeah,
looking down on it all.
I completely agree. Like them reports, especially being on a different aspect ratio
Yeah,
as
the
well,
little square.
they really do feel like a panel from a comic books. Like instead of like an individual issue, like when they compile like an arc down,
Mm.
it feels like the kind of thing you would have recurring in an arc to show public opinion shifting towards or against the hero as the story progresses. And they're serving that role in this story in a very similar way. And it's just one of them creative decisions that I've said it countless times while we've done this podcast. Letting creative people be creative is normally the right way to go. And this feels like one of these decisions where creative people have gone, this would be fucking awesome, we should try it. And I think it is, like you say, adding a lot to the feel of the story overall.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what Fisk's game plan is. Because we're
I
getting,
genuinely think he's gaslit himself into thinking he's doing what's good for New York.
yes, but also like, so there's little things there. Like, I genuinely think he thinks being mayor gives him that control again of being able to help New York and not have the law coming against him. And he's like kind of immune from Daredevil coming against him because he's like, well, I'm doing this properly now. But there's like the things with Vanessa where he's like, oh, we just let them have their chaos for the time being and we'll bring in a new order. I'm like, what sort of new order? Like, is there a end game plan here that you're being very sus around, like how you're then going to flip this into you're in control again? Also, last week, when he sat at the desk and he was like, how old is this desk? His knuckles were bloody.
Yeah.
And like that was like, it was a very clear on purpose shot to show us that. Obviously, this week we got a similar shot showing Matt's knuckles when he was like cleaning up after. I'm wondering if we're gonna get like that's meant to be being like, no, he's still up to no good, like he's doing shit on the side, or this is just a funny thought that there's going to be a point where they're making us believe that he's still up to doing shit, and that's why he's got like bloody knuckles because he's quietly is doing criminal stuff. But actually, it's just his workout plan as he does boxing.
So I think you're closer on the second half there. So in an interview, Vincent D'Onofrio like mentioned how much thinner he is for this
Yeah.
series.
Well, and Matt
And part
mentioned
of
it.
that, yeah, and part of that was Vincent D'Onofrio said, I physically, at the age I am now, can't put on all that weight in a healthy way,
Yes.
which is completely fair. But they've decided to incorporate that into his arc for this season. And by the sounds of it, they're going for like a proper over the top massive kingpin next season. So it sounds like there's going to be something to do with the arc of this season is going to turn him into a fucking massive.
Okay.
And I do think there might be like a training element to that. But
Maybe.
I think they're going to play with that idea of what he's doing a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Is he, and just because he's not doing anything criminal by punching stuff up, maybe, yeah, he is just punching stuff for his training. But what's he training for? Why is he becoming so formidable?
I'm like, are they going to play off as he's just training because that's how he's controlling his rage?
Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of really interesting options here. I'm really curious about how they're going to play this, and I'm loving it because you fit like you know what we said with Captain America: Brave New World, where they gave up the reveal of Red Hulk in the trailer.
Yes.
So you felt like you were ahead of the story the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting that now.
No.
We're behind the story. Every time we learn something new, we are learning something new.
Yeah, because the trailers have already basically shown the only things we haven't seen from the trailers is him meeting up with Punisher again and him suiting up with all the help. Like, so yeah, there's a lot of mystery to this season because they've been very smart and like they gave us enough at the trailer to kickstart us, which we got in the first 2 episodes basically. Now it's kind of like, where do these other things lead to? Because I also think there's a very interesting story here with their therapist is Matt's new girlfriend. She knows Matt has history with Fisk. At what point does Matt find out that her new client is Fisk? Is it an accidental, he's with her, they bump into them, and then there's this like, oh.
I would love a double date so much.
Or does Fisk find out she's dating Matt, and then he's like, there's some manipulation there that both sides could lose their cool because they're kind of now intertwined, which I think is going to make for an interesting storyline again.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Now, the end of the episode.
Yes.
White Tiger's free. He suits up after being told he shouldn't, but I thought, which again, I liked that line of Matt saying, you might be surprised how much you don't miss it. Which I think obviously is just, we know that's him talking from personal experience.
He's gaslighting himself. He misses it every day. I promise you. He's going to look like a junkie when he first suits up. Okay, he's going to be like, well, oh yeah, that's the stuff.
We saw him in that fight with the cops. Like, that was like the first hit again, let's be honest. But White Tiger gets shot by someone with a Punisher vest on. I don't believe that's Punisher.
No, it's a police officer.
Yeah.
You think the Punisher would assassinate someone from the shadows? He'd walk out in the middle of the street calling him out.
That, but also, I was like, I don't think he would see what White Tiger... Like, I don't see how he would see him as like someone who deserves to be killed.
No, he wouldn't.
No, so I was like, that's a copycat police officer, like probably police officer.
As we saw with the tattoo on the wrist and the tattoo on the neck in the courtroom,
yeah,
there is a bunch of police officers running around using the Punisher's iconography, and Frank is going to. I need it when they've been talking throughout, like the press about how violent this show is. I need them to when they're talking about this, going, that one episode with Frank, man, it got too real.
The only thing we've seen in the trailer is he like slams him against like a locker. I bet the storyline's going to be that Matt finds out, obviously, that White Tiger got killed. He's going to do some digging. He's going to start learning about that Punisher icon. And then he's going to think it is
Frank.
Find out where he is. Confront him. Frank's going to be like, the fuck you on about? I stopped doing that shit. I gave up on that shit. Like, I walked away from it. Like, to then...
I think Frank has given up being the Punisher. If you look in the footage we saw of him, there is a fuck ton of guns on the wall behind him. I think he's very much still the Punisher. I think he's just better at not being so noisy now.
Possibly that. But, like, I don't think Matt's going to believe him, but then they're eventually going to realize that that's not the case. And I think you're right. Frank's going to be like, fuck these cops using my image. And we're going to get some brutal, like...
I really hope that Matt makes one of his shitty lawyer jokes about what do you want to do, sue him for copyright infringement. I think that'd be quite funny.
That would be quite good.
But yeah, I definitely think there's some interesting stuff going on there. Did you notice the interesting part of the trial when it comes to White Tiger? He mentioned how he was moving into a studio flat because he'd been living with his sister and his niece.
Yes.
His niece is the White Tiger.
Okay, because was it you sent me a thing about the future of White Tigers in...
Yes. So I believe he was due to die in this show anyway. I don't think the actor, very sadly passing away, changed that. But we have the White Tiger, and that is Ava Alaya, and it is Hector's niece.
Wasn't she sat in the court?
Yes, that was the little girl sat in the courtroom. So we've got our next White Tiger ready to fucking go.
Yeah.
And they can sit on that for a little while and then decide what they want to do with that.
And
but
because we know
very
it's
cool.
the powers come from the amulet, so it's like
Yeah, it was cool to see the amulet. I would have liked it maybe a little bit bigger.
I was expecting like to see the eyes glow properly or
Yeah,
something, like just something
like
to show
it was
it's
a
a bit.
gorgeous piece of jewelry, but oh yeah, I would have liked something that made it a little bit more. Ooh, what is it?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Um, but yeah, like I'm loving this show. It's so good. It's shot so well. The writing, as we've already said, is incredible.
Yeah,
I'm just so intrigued to see where these storylines go, and I'm so ready for Matt to just suit the fuck up so we can have another fight.
I'm really looking forward to the kind of arc they take here. I'm loving how a lot of the original show had this kind of idea of I'm breaking the law as a lawyer, that's wrong. Which I was never a massive fan of, because if you subscribe to that idea, you believe all laws are moral, and that is fundamentally wrong. Not all laws are moral. This show seems to be tackling that idea that the law is strictly moral.
Yeah.
By putting Fisk in a position of power and showing, well, he's technically the law now, but we know he's not moral. Even if he's not doing anything illegal, we've already seen him playing political games with the police commissioner by showing that he knows that he has an illegitimate son.
Yeah.
And that's not moral. So is Matt going out there and genuinely just trying to help people just because it's illegal? Is it immoral? And I think that's what the show's going to play on a lot. And I'm really looking forward to see exactly how that goes. And I love that we're getting superhero media back to being less about is it legal, is it illegal, and stuff like that, which I think is a little bit of like propaganda.
Yeah.
And more a case of, are you just trying to do the best thing you can in that situation? Because that's what Heroes are being about.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it a little bit in Invincible.
We are.
To an extent, we're even seeing it in Reacher. It's not about is it legal, is it illegal? It's about doing
like,
what's right.
Yeah, what's right and what's wrong. He doesn't care about the law.
And this is the big thing with like propaganda to an extent. Getting away from the idea of following the law and because it's legal makes it okay is very important, because you can still look at something Matt does or Reacher does or Invincible does and goes, hold on a second, that's not quite right. Like Mark busting into the Pentagon.
Yeah.
But it's more illegal than it is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a big thing. Laws are not are like a moral compass. They're just things we've decided are illegal. I don't think it's immoral to steal a loaf of bread to feed your family. It's like the base. But stealing a Lamborghini because you don't want to pay for your new Lamborghini is absolutely immoral, because why the fuck do you need a Lamborghini to start with? Type vibe. Yeah, and I like that we're going more that way. And also viewing the police as a gang, which is what they're showing the police as so far. Yeah, they're showing... Let's be clear, the police are the biggest gang in the world.
Well, what I'm enjoying is this is their way of doing dirty cops. Because like we see like in your typical like mafia film, gangster, like you get your dirty cops that are paid off by the mafia or whatever, but having it be like they're all like under this,
they are the mafia.
Yeah, and they're all playing under this Punisher iconography because they have him as this like idol, but they don't understand him, is going to be such a fun story to see play out, because we really, know really as comic book fans, Punisher does not like that. So hopefully we get the payout.
Yeah, exactly that. But a great episode. I think Comar Dolos Reyes' performance was stunning.
Yeah.
Just a master. Like in episode 2 and episode 3, his acting has just been phenomenal. I think the use of the frog noise at the end of the episode was unnecessarily brutal, and they didn't need to attack me like that.
They're so good with their ending moments.
It does. Do you know what? That is a big praise I will give this show so far over the Netflix show. This show isn't ending in spots that make you feel like you need to watch the next episode instantly because, oh, that's ended in like the middle of a fucking sentence, so I need to hear the rest of the
Mhm.
sentence and just keep binging. This show is like ending on moments where it's like, okay, you need a minute to process
You
what
mean
you've just seen.
the difference between releasing weekly and
Yeah,
bulk?
proper TV and binge TV. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm over the moon with this show so far.
Mhm.
I'm very excited to see where it goes. Can't wait for more. I'm so excited that season 2 has already been greenlit and is being worked on.
Mhm. Yeah.